The morning sun cast long shadows across the golden wheat fields of Kepler 442c. From orbit, the planet looked exactly like what the Galactic Council's intelligence reports claimed it to be, a simple human farming colony. Rows of grain stretched to the horizon, broken only by clusters of modest buildings and the occasional silo reaching toward the pale blue sky. Commander Zixtal of the Council Intelligence Division reviewed the orbital scans one more time before filing his report. The images showed everything he expected to see on an agricultural world. Solar collection arrays dotted the landscape, their panels angled to catch the maximum amount of sunlight. Irrigation channels carried water from the main river to distant fields. Livestock grazed in fenced pastures, tended by humans who moved with the unhurried pace of farmers everywhere. The population count remained steady at approximately 50,000 beings. Most appeared to be adults in their middle years, with a smaller number of children and elderly. Transport ships arrived weekly, carrying supplies and departing with cargo containers full of grain, vegetables, and processed foods. The colony had been operating for 3 years now, and nothing in the intelligence file suggested it was anything more than what it appeared to be. Zixtal marked the file as routine and moved on to more pressing matters. The war against the hegemony empire demanded his attention, not some peaceful farming settlement on the edge of civilized space. The humans had chosen their location well, far enough from the main shipping lanes to avoid attention, close enough to other colonies to make their agricultural products profitable. Down on the planet's surface, Dr. Elena Vasquez walked through the wheat field, running her fingers along the grain stalks. To any observer, she looked like a typical colony administrator checking on the crops. Her simple work clothes and sun-weathered face supported that impression. The data tablet in her hand displayed charts showing moisture levels, soil conditions, and projected harvest yields. But Elena's eyes weren't focused on the agricultural data. Instead, she watched the readings from sensors buried deep beneath the farmland. Power levels remained stable. The manufacturing system showed green across all indicators. The underground facilities continued their work, hidden from orbital scanners by layers of carefully placed dirt and growing plants. A young man approached through the wheat, his boots leaving tracks in the soft earth between the rows. To anyone watching, James Chen looked like a typical farm worker. His clothes were dirty from a morning spent checking irrigation lines, and he carried a tool bag that rattled with wrenches and repair equipment. But his eyes held a sharpness that spoke of military training, and his movements carried the precise efficiency of someone used to following orders under pressure. "Morning report, Administrator," James said, using Elena's official title. The words sounded casual, but both of them knew the real meaning. He was delivering intelligence updates, not agricultural statistics. Elena nodded and accepted the data chip he handed her. "How are the crops looking today?" "All systems green," James replied. "The eastern fields are particularly productive. Estimates suggest we'll exceed projected output by 30%. Elena smiled. The real translation was that the eastern weapons arrays had completed their calibration tests and were performing above specifications. Excellent news. I'll include that in today's report to the Council. They walked together toward one of the larger buildings, discussing irrigation schedules and harvest timing. Anyone listening would hear nothing more interesting than typical farm management conversation. They passed other colonists working in the fields, maintaining equipment and tending to various tasks. All of them looked like ordinary farmers, ranchers, and agricultural workers. The building they entered appeared to be a standard administrative center. The main room held desks, filing cabinets, and walls covered with charts showing weather patterns, crop rotations, and shipping schedules. Elena sat behind her desk and activated her computer terminal, which displayed exactly the sort of agricultural management software any colony administrator might use. But Elena's fingers moved in a specific pattern across the interface, activating hidden subroutines buried within the farming programs. Her screen flickered for just a moment before showing an entirely different set of displays. Power distribution networks, weapon status indicators, and communication arrays replaced the crop management data. Council intelligence swept the system again yesterday, James reported, settling into a chair across from Elena's desk. Standard orbital reconnaissance. They spent 47 minutes scanning the surface before moving on to the next system. Did they detect anything unusual? Negative. The masking systems held perfectly. To their sensors, we're still just farmers growing wheat and raising cattle. Elena nodded with satisfaction. 3 years of careful preparation had created the perfect deception. Every building on the surface served a genuine agricultural function, while hiding something far more sophisticated beneath. The grain silos really did store wheat, but their lower levels housed advanced manufacturing equipment. The livestock barns actually contained cattle, but they also concealed prototype spacecraft that had never appeared in any official design database. The irrigation system represented perhaps the greatest achievement of the colony's hidden engineering core. The water channels visible from orbit were real and functional, carrying river water to distant fields exactly as they appeared to do. But buried alongside the water pipes lay something else entirely. A network of railgun assemblies capable of accelerating projectiles to significant fractions of light speed. Elena's computer chimed softly, indicating an incoming transmission from the Galactic Council's Agricultural Ministry. She switched her display back to farming mode and opened the communication channel. A bureaucrat's face appeared on her screen, looking slightly bored as he delivered his routine monthly check-in. Administrator Vasquez, this is Deputy Minister Colrath with your scheduled colony evaluation. Please confirm your current production statistics and population count. Of course, Deputy Minister, Elena replied, adopting the slightly weary tone of someone dealing with government paperwork. Current population holds steady at 49,812 individuals. Wheat production is tracking 12% above projections, and our livestock breeding programs continue to exceed expectations. She transmitted a data package containing exactly the information the Council expected to see. Production numbers, health statistics, birth and death records, shipping manifests, all of it genuine and all of it supporting the image of a thriving but unremarkable agricultural colony. Colrath reviewed the data with the cursory attention of someone performing a routine task. Everything appears to be in order, Administrator. Continue your excellent work. The Council values the food security provided by colonies like yours. After the transmission ended, Elena leaned back in her chair and allowed herself a small smile. If only the Council knew how much security this particular colony really provided. Hidden beneath their feet lay weapons systems and defensive technologies that could change the course of the current war. But timing was everything, and the humans had learned patience over their long history. James stood to leave but paused at the door. Any word on when we might need to reveal ourselves? Elena glanced at another display showing news feeds from across the galaxy. The Hegemony Empire continued its aggressive expansion, striking deeper into Council territory with each passing month. Their forces seemed unstoppable, using advanced plasma weapons and superior numbers to overwhelm traditional defenses. Council military commanders grew increasingly desperate as they lost system after system. Not yet, Elena said finally. But the hegemony is getting bolder. Their fleet movements suggest they're planning something big. When they make their move, we'll be ready. James nodded and left the office, returning to his cover duties in the fields. Elena remained at her desk, monitoring systems that didn't officially exist while maintaining the fiction that her greatest concern was the upcoming harvest season. Outside her window, the wheat continued to grow under the alien sun, hiding secrets that would soon reshape the galaxy. The emergency broadcast reached Kepler 442c at exactly 14:27 local time, interrupting the afternoon work shift across the colony. Elena Vasquez was inspecting the northern grain silos when her communicator crackled to life with the unmistakable urgency of a priority military transmission. All Council territories, all Council allies, this is Admiral Thorne of the Third Fleet, the voice said, heavy with exhaustion and barely controlled panic. The hegemony has launched coordinated attacks on Centauri Prime, New Geneva, and the Arcturus station. We are requesting immediate assistance from any available forces. Repeat, we need immediate assistance. Elena exchanged glances with the 3 colonists working nearby. To any observer, they looked like typical agricultural workers. Dirt under their fingernails, simple clothes, tools appropriate for maintaining grain storage equipment. But Elena recognized the subtle tension in their postures, the way their eyes sharpened at the military terminology in the broadcast. Keep working, she said quietly. This changes nothing yet. But even as she spoke the words, Elena knew they weren't entirely true. The hegemony's 3-pronged attack represented the largest military operation in the current war. If they succeeded in taking those 3 systems, The psychological impact alone might shatter the Council's remaining resistance. The broadcast continued with increasing desperation. Centauri Prime's orbital defenses have fallen. Enemy forces are landing on the surface. New Geneva reports catastrophic damage to their fleet yards. Arcturus Station is gone. Elena felt a chill that had nothing to do with the afternoon wind blowing across the wheat fields. Arcturus Station had housed over 2 million civilians and served as the primary logistics hub for the entire Outer Rim. The hegemony had just committed genocide on a massive scale. Any ships, any personnel, any resources. Admiral Thorne's voice continued. We're falling back toward the core systems, but we need help. Please respond if you can assist. Elena activated her personal communicator, switching to the colony's internal frequency. All department heads to the community center in 30 minutes. Standard weekly meeting. The response came back in the casual acknowledgments of people discussing routine business. But Elena knew that within the hour, every person on Kepler 442c would understand that their 3 years of preparation might be coming to an end. The community center sat at the heart of the colony. A simple building that could have been found on any agricultural world. Folding chairs arranged in neat rows faced a small stage where colony administrators typically discussed crop rotations, maintenance schedules, and social events. Today, those same chairs, filled with people who carried themselves with the subtle discipline of military professionals despite their farming clothes. Elena took the stage and looked out at faces she had come to know well over the past 3 years. Dr. Sarah Kim, officially the colony's veterinarian, who had actually designed the targeting systems for their hidden weapons arrays. Marcus Torres, supposedly a simple mechanic, whose real specialty involved spacecraft propulsion systems that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Captain Lisa Park, whose official job involved managing the livestock breeding program, but whose real expertise lay in coordinating fleet movements across multiple star systems. I assume everyone heard the broadcast. Elena began without preamble. The hegemony has made their move. She activated the wall display, which showed what appeared to be agricultural production charts. But the colonists saw the real information hidden within the seemingly innocent graphs. Hegemony fleet positions, Council defensive capabilities, projected casualty numbers if the current offensive continued unchecked. Intelligence estimates suggest the hegemony committed 70% of their total fleet strength to this operation. Elena continued. They're betting everything on breaking Council resistance now before we can organize an effective counterattack. Dr. Kim raised her hand. What's the current status of our systems? All green across the board, Elena replied. Manufacturing completed the final components last week. The railgun arrays finished their calibration tests yesterday. Fleet readiness stands at 100%. A murmur ran through the crowd, though to any outside observer it might have sounded like farmers discussing weather patterns or market prices. These people had spent 3 years building weapons and defenses while pretending to grow crops. They had trained in secret, planned in hidden facilities, and prepared for a war that most of the galaxy thought they wanted no part of. Marcus Torres stood up from the back row. The question is timing. Do we reveal ourselves now, or wait to see how the Council's counterattack develops? Elena had been wrestling with that same question since the emergency broadcast arrived. Too early, and they might waste the element of surprise on a situation the Council could handle alone. Too late, and there might not be a Council left to save. The hegemony strategy is sound, she admitted. They're not just trying to win territory. They're trying to break morale. If these 3 systems fall completely, other Council members might start surrendering rather than fighting. Captain Park nodded grimly. And if the Council collapses, we become the next target. The hegemony won't ignore a human colony indefinitely, especially once they control enough territory to start systematic resource exploitation. Elena walked to the front of the stage, her decision crystallizing as she looked at the faces of her people. They had come to this remote world for different reasons. Some seeking peace after military careers, others wanting to pursue research without bureaucratic interference, a few simply tired of the politics that dominated human space. But all of them had agreed to the colony's real purpose when they signed their settlement contracts. We didn't build all this to hide forever, Elena said finally. We built it to end wars, not watch them destroy innocent people. She paused, letting the weight of the moment settle over the room. Outside the windows, the wheat fields swayed in the afternoon breeze. hiding secrets that could reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. "I'm calling for a vote," Elena announced. "All in favor of active intervention." Hands rose across the room without hesitation. Elena counted quickly, though she already knew the result. These people had spent 3 years preparing for exactly this moment. They understood the risks and the responsibilities that came with the power they had built. "Motion carries unanimously," Elena said. "Dr. Kim, how long until the arrays are fully operational?" "Give me 6 hours to complete the final power-up sequence," Kim replied. "The targeting computers need time to integrate current hegemony fleet positions." "Captain Park, what's our fleet status?" "All ships are ready for immediate launch. Crews have been running simulation exercises so everyone knows their assignments. We can be clear of the atmosphere in 4 hours." Elena nodded with satisfaction. 3 years of careful planning had led to this moment. The hegemony thought they were fighting a war against the scattered forces of the Galactic Council. They had no idea that humanity had been watching, learning, and preparing. "Marcus, start bringing the manufacturing systems online. If this goes longer than expected, we may need to produce additional munitions." "Already on it," Torres replied. "The fabrication units have been in standby mode for weeks." Elena looked around the room one final time. "Remember, we're not trying to destroy the hegemony. We're trying to end the war. Minimum necessary force, maximum strategic impact. Our goal is surrender, not annihilation." As the colonists filed out of the community center, returning to tasks that would look routine to any observer, Elena remained behind for a moment. Through the windows, she could see people moving through the wheat fields, tending to equipment, going about their daily routines. But beneath that peaceful surface, hidden systems were coming online. Weapons were being prepared. And the galaxy was about to learn what humans could accomplish when they put their minds to ending a war. The emergency broadcast continued, growing more desperate as the hegemony pressed their advantage. But Elena was no longer worried about the Council's immediate survival. In a few hours, the war would take a very different turn. The transformation began at sunset. Across the wheat fields of Kepler 442c, seemingly innocent irrigation channels began to hum with power that had nothing to do with moving water. Deep beneath the grain silos, massive machinery stirred to life for the first time since the colony's founding. In the livestock barns, ceiling panels slid aside to reveal sleek spacecraft that belonged in military shipyards, not agricultural settlements. Elena Vasquez stood in what the Galactic Council's files listed as the colony's primary grain processing facility. The truth was somewhat more complex. While the upper levels did indeed process wheat and other crops, the lower 3 floors housed one of the most sophisticated command centers in human space. Banks of monitors displayed tactical information from across the galaxy, updated in real time by quantum communication. Arrays hidden among the colony's solar collectors, power, at 90% and climbing, reported Dr. Sarah, Kim from her position at the weapons control station. Around her, displays showed the status of railgun assemblies buried beneath kilometers of farmland. Each weapon could accelerate projectiles to significant fractions of light speed, making them capable of striking targets several star systems away with devastating precision. "Fleet status report," Elena requested, turning to Captain Lisa Park. "All 37 vessels are powered and ready for launch," Park replied. "Crews are at their stations, flight plans are loaded, and quantum tunnel coordinates are locked in. We can be clear of the atmosphere in 15 minutes on your order." Elena nodded, then activated the colony's main communication array. It was time to drop the pretense that had protected them for 3 years. The galaxy was about to learn that the peaceful farming settlement of Kepler 442c had been something else entirely from the very beginning. "This is Admiral Elena Vasquez of the Human Colonial Defense Force, broadcasting on all council frequencies," she said, using her real rank for the first time since arriving on this world. "I am speaking to you from what your intelligence files list as Agricultural Colony, K442c. She paused, knowing that her words were being recorded and analyzed by intelligence services across the galaxy. The revelation that a retired admiral was running what appeared to be a farming settlement would send shockwaves through both Council and Hegemony command structures. For the past 3 years, this colony has operated under deep cover, constructing defensive capabilities while maintaining the appearance of a simple agricultural settlement. We have watched the Hegemony's aggression with growing concern, and recent events have forced us to abandon our operational security. On her tactical displays, Elena could see the hegemony fleets pressing their attacks on 3 fronts. Centauri Prime's government had evacuated to underground bunkers as enemy forces established orbital control. New Geneva's industrial capacity lay in ruins, its shipyards reduced to expanding clouds of metallic debris. The destruction of Arcturus Station had created a humanitarian crisis as refugee ships fled toward the core systems. The hegemony believes they are fighting a war against scattered council forces with limited technological capabilities, Elena continued. This assessment is incorrect. Humanity has been developing new weapon systems and defensive technologies while publicly maintaining neutrality in this conflict. That neutrality ends now. Dr. Kim looked up from her displays, catching Elena's attention. All weapons arrays report ready status. Target acquisition systems are online and tracking hegemony fleet positions across 7-star systems. Elena felt a moment of satisfaction at the precision of their intelligence network. The same quantum communication systems that allowed near instantaneous coordination of agricultural shipments had been quietly mapping enemy positions and movement patterns for months. The hegemony had no idea how thoroughly they had been observed and analyzed. Marcus, how are our manufacturing systems responding? Elena asked. Marcus Torres looked up from his engineering station, where holographic displays showed the status of fabrication units buried beneath the colony's foundation. All green, Admiral. The reactors are running at optimal levels and production lines are active. If we need additional munitions or spare parts, we can manufacture them on site. The engineering achievement represented by the colony still amazed Elena, even after 3 years of watching it operate. Every building on the surface served its apparent agricultural function while concealing sophisticated military technology. The grain silos really did store wheat, but their lower levels housed matter compilation systems that could produce anything from starship components to precision munitions. The livestock barns genuinely contained cattle, but they also hid spacecraft assembly bays where prototype vessels had been constructed, using revolutionary propulsion technologies. Communications. Patch me through to the Council emergency frequency, Elena ordered. A moment later, Admiral Thorne's exhausted voice filled the command center. This is Admiral Thorne. Who is this? How did you access this channel? Admiral, this is Elena Vasquez. I believe you knew me as Commander Vasquez during the Proxima border incident 15 years ago. The silence that followed lasted several seconds. When Thorne spoke again, his voice carried a mixture of disbelief and hope. Elena? We thought you retired to some farming colony in the Outer Rim. I did retire to a farming colony, Elena replied with dry humor. It just wasn't the kind of farming colony anyone expected. She transmitted authentication codes that would verify her identity through Council military databases. While Thorne's staff processed the information, Elena watched her tactical displays update with new hegemony movements. The enemy was pressing their advantage, unaware that the balance of power was about to shift dramatically. My God, Thorne whispered as the authentication completed. Elena, what kind of resources are we talking about here? Enough to end this war, Elena replied simply. But I need current tactical data on hegemony positions and Council fleet status. Can you provide a secure data link? Transmitting now, Thorne said immediately. Elena, I have to ask, how long have you been planning this? Elena smiled grimly as intelligence data flooded into her systems. Hegemony fleet compositions, movement patterns, supply lines, command structures, everything she needed to plan a decisive strike. 3 years of active preparation, Admiral. But humans have been thinking about this kind of warfare for much longer. Around the command center, her staff worked with quiet efficiency to integrate the new intelligence data with their existing battle plans. Every person in the room had spent decades in military service before retiring to this supposedly peaceful colony. They understood the weight of the moment and the responsibility that came with the power they had built. Dr. Kim, update targeting solutions based on current enemy positions, Elena ordered. Already on it, Kim replied. The quantum targeting computers are processing the new data. We'll have firing solutions within the hour. Captain Park, how are our fleet commanders holding up? It's been a while since any of them flew combat missions. Park checked her displays, which showed biometric data from the ships hiding in the livestock barns. All crews report ready for action. The simulation training has kept their skills sharp and morale is excellent. They're eager to put our new technologies to the test. Elena nodded with satisfaction. The human ships waiting in concealment beneath the colony represented advances in spacecraft design that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Quantum tunnel drives that could open stable wormholes across interstellar distances, shield systems that manipulated spacetime itself to deflect incoming fire, weapons that could disable enemy vessels without necessarily destroying them. Admiral Thorne, Elena said, reopening the communication channel, recommend you pull your forces back to defensive positions around the core systems. Give us 12 hours and this war will look very different. Elena, I've seen the intelligence estimates on hegemony fleet strength. They outnumber us 3 to 1, and their plasma weapons technology is superior to anything we've deployed. Admiral, Elena replied with quiet confidence, you haven't seen our technology. She closed the communication channel and turned to address her command staff. Around her, the displays showed a galaxy at war, with the forces of order retreating before an aggressive enemy that seemed unstoppable. But in a few hours, the hegemony was going to learn that they had made a crucial error in their intelligence assessments. They had assumed that humanity wanted no part of this war. They were about to discover that humans had simply been waiting for the right moment to end it. The attack began at exactly 23:47 Galactic Standard Time. Elena Vasquez stood in the command center buried beneath Kepler 442c's grain processing facility, watching displays that showed the positions of hegemony fleets across 7 star systems. For 3 years she had planned for this moment. Now, as her finger hovered over the execution key, she felt the weight of decisions that would reshape the galaxy. All stations report ready, Captain Park announced from the Fleet Coordination Station. Quantum tunnel drives are charged and coordinates are locked in. Our ships can emerge behind enemy lines simultaneously across all target systems. Weapons arrays are fully charged, Dr. Kim added from her position at the artillery control console. Railgun targeting solutions are confirmed and all projectiles are loaded with non-lethal disable charges. Elena had insisted on that detail despite objections from some of her staff. The goal was to end the war, not commit genocide. The projectiles emerging from Kepler 442c's hidden weapons would be designed to disable hegemony ships rather than destroy them outright. Victory through overwhelming demonstration of capability, not mass destruction. Communications. Open channels to all our ships, Elena ordered. Channels open. Admiral, came the reply. Elena took a deep breath, knowing that her next words would begin the most ambitious military operation in human history. 37 ships were about to emerge from quantum tunnels behind enemy lines, while weapons buried beneath wheat fields would reach across impossible distances to strike with perfect precision. This is Admiral Vasquez to all units. Operation Harvest Moon is now active. Execute on my mark. She paused, watching the chronometer count down the final seconds. Mark. Across the colony, hidden launch bays opened for the first time since their construction. Sleek spacecraft that had been concealed beneath fake barn roofs lifted into the night sky, their quantum drives already spinning up for the jump to hyperspace. From orbit, any observer would see what appeared to be a miraculous fleet emerging from an agricultural settlement. But the real surprise was yet to come. In the Centauri system, Hegemony Admiral Krath was reviewing casualty reports from the orbital bombardment, when space itself seemed to tear open behind his fleet. Quantum tunnels materialized in perfect formation, disgorging human ships that belonged in no known database. The vessels moved with inhuman precision, their formations too perfect for organic crews to maintain. Unknown contacts, his sensor officer shouted. Multiple ships appearing across our fleet perimeter. Krath activated the tactical display, his eyes widening at what he saw. 37 ships had appeared from nowhere, positioned with mathematical precision to envelope his entire force. But these weren't standard council vessels. Their hull configurations were unlike anything in the intelligence databases. Communications. Hail the lead ship, Krath ordered. This is Admiral Elena Vasquez of the Human Colonial Defense Force, came the immediate reply. You have 60 seconds to power down your weapons and prepare for boarding. Krath's mandibles clicked in amusement. Human, you are outnumbered 15 to 1. Surrender now and we may show mercy. Admiral, Vasquez replied with disturbing calm, you're about to learn why that calculation is irrelevant. The first railgun projectile arrived 8 seconds later. It had traveled from Kepler 442c at nearly 30% of light speed, crossing 4 star systems in the time it took Krath to finish his sentence. The projectile struck his flagship's main reactor assembly with surgical precision, delivering an electromagnetic pulse that shut down every system on the ship without breaching the hull or harming the crew. Similar projectiles struck every other hegemony vessel in the system simultaneously. Ships that had been bombarding Centauri Prime's surface moments before found themselves drifting powerless in space, their weapons offline and their engines dead. But the real shock came when Krath realized the targeting precision involved. Each projectile had been calculated to disable specific systems while leaving life support and structural integrity intact. The level of technological sophistication required for such accuracy across interstellar distances was beyond anything the hegemony had thought possible. Impossible, Krath whispered, staring at his darkened tactical displays. Similar scenes played out across 6 other star systems as human ships emerged from quantum tunnels and railgun projectiles arrived with impossible timing. Hegemony commanders found their communications jammed by technologies that seemed to bend the laws of physics. Their plasma weapons, so effective against Council defenses, proved useless against human shields that redistributed energy across dimensional barriers. In the New Geneva system, Hegemony Fleet Commander Zorth watched in growing panic as her vessels fell silent one by one. The human ships moved like extensions of a single mind, their formations shifting with mechanical precision that no organic crew could match. When she ordered her remaining ships to concentrate fire on a single human vessel, the enemy's shields seemed to absorb and redirect the energy into surrounding space. "What are these creatures?" Zorth demanded of her intelligence officer. "Unknown, Commander. Their technology appears to be decades ahead of our projections. Our weapons are having no effect and their targeting accuracy is impossible." Zorth's command ship shuddered as another railgun projectile arrived from the mysterious agricultural colony, precisely disabling her main engines while leaving everything else functional. Around her, the last of her fleet succumbed to the same treatment, disabled but not destroyed, captured but not killed. Back on Kepler 442c, Elena watched the tactical displays with grim satisfaction. The operation was proceeding exactly as planned. Hegemony resistance had collapsed within minutes of the first strikes, their technological advantages rendered meaningless by human innovations they had never imagined. "Status report," she requested. "All target fleets have been neutralized," Dr. Kim reported. "0 casualties on our side, minimal casualties among enemy forces. All hegemony ships are disabled and ready for boarding operations. Fleet coordination shows green across all systems," Captain Park added. "Our ships have established control over all 7 battle zones. Enemy commanders are requesting terms for surrender." Elena felt a moment of profound relief. The plan had worked better than even her most optimistic projections. 3 years of preparation had allowed them to end what appeared to be an unstoppable hegemony offensive in less than 10 minutes of actual combat. "Time elapsed since operation initiation?" she asked. 9 minutes 17 seconds, came the reply. Elena nodded with satisfaction. The galaxy had just witnessed the most decisive military victory in recorded history, achieved by forces that most intelligence services had dismissed as irrelevant farmers. The psychological impact would reverberate through every government and military command structure in known space. "Communications. Open a channel to all hegemony commanders," Elena ordered. When the connection established, she addressed the leaders of fleets that had been conquering star systems just minutes before. "This is Admiral Vasquez. Your forces have been neutralized using non-lethal methods. We have no desire to destroy your ships or harm your crews. However, this war ends now." She paused, allowing the weight of their situation to sink in. Across 7 star systems, hegemony admirals sat in darkened command centers, their mighty fleets reduced to powerless hulks in space. "You will order all remaining hegemony forces to stand down immediately. Any attempts to continue hostilities will result in more decisive action. We have demonstrated our capability to strike any target in the galaxy with precision and overwhelming force. Do not test our resolve further." The surrender came within the hour. Hegemony High Command, faced with the total destruction of their most powerful fleets by forces they had never known existed, ordered an immediate ceasefire across all fronts. The war that had threatened to destroy the Galactic Council ended not with a massive battle or prolonged siege, but with a demonstration of technological superiority so complete that further resistance became meaningless. Elena remained in the command center as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Council forces emerging from hiding to find their enemies surrendering. Refugee ships turning around as word spread that the hegemony offensive had collapsed. Intelligence services desperately trying to understand how a farming colony had just ended an interstellar war. In 9 minutes and 17 seconds, humanity had announced its presence on the galactic stage in a way that would never be forgotten. The peaceful farmers of Kepler 442c had revealed themselves as something far more significant and far more dangerous than anyone had imagined possible. 3 weeks after the 9-minute war, the Galactic Council chambers buzzed with an energy that had been absent for months. Representatives from dozens of species filled the curved rows of seats. Their attention focused on the central speaking platform where Elena Vasquez stood in her formal admiral's uniform. The transformation was remarkable. The woman who had spent 3 years posing as a simple agricultural administrator now commanded the respect and fear of every military leader in the galaxy. Her weathered face and calloused hands still spoke of time spent in wheat fields, but her bearing left no doubt about her true nature. "Honored representatives," Elena began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's advanced acoustics. "I appear before you today to address questions about humanity's actions during the recent conflict with the Hegemony Empire." In the front row, Council Military Coordinator Thexanol leaned forward with obvious interest. The reptilian officer had spent the past 3 weeks reviewing intelligence reports that still seemed impossible to believe. A farming colony had ended an interstellar war using weapons that shouldn't exist and tactics that redefined the art of warfare. "Admiral Vasquez," Thexanol said when recognized to speak, "perhaps you could begin by explaining exactly what we witnessed 3 weeks ago. Our intelligence services are struggling to understand how your colony developed such capabilities." Elena nodded, having expected the question. The settlement on Kepler 442c was established with dual purposes from the beginning. While we did indeed produce agricultural products for local consumption, our primary mission was research and development of defensive technologies. She activated a holographic display that showed the colony's surface layout. To the assembled representatives, it looked exactly like the intelligence reports they had been reading for 3 years. Grain fields, livestock areas, simple buildings arranged in practical patterns. Every structure on the surface served its apparent agricultural function, while concealing more sophisticated facilities below. The grain silos processed wheat, but also housed matter compilation systems. The livestock barns contained cattle, but also served as assembly bays for prototype spacecraft. The irrigation channels carried water to distant fields but also powered a network of railgun assemblies. Councillor Veltar of the Centauri delegation raised a tentacle to request attention. "Admiral, the precision of your orbital strike suggests targeting capabilities far beyond current technology. How did you achieve such accuracy across interstellar distances?" Elena smiled slightly. "Quantum entanglement communication allows near instantaneous data transmission, regardless of distance. By establishing monitoring stations throughout the galaxy, we were able to track enemy movements in real time. Our targeting computers simply calculated trajectories based on current positions, rather than predicted locations." The explanation sent murmurs through the chamber. Several species had theoretical knowledge of quantum entanglement, but practical applications had remained beyond their reach. The humans had not only solved the engineering challenges but deployed the technology on a massive scale. "But Admiral," interrupted Delegate Zorketh from the Rigel system, "our intelligence services found no evidence of these installations during 3 years of routine surveillance. How did you maintain such complete operational security?" "Humans have a saying," Elena replied. "The best place to hide something is in plain sight." Every component of our defensive network was disguised as agricultural equipment. Our manufacturing systems appeared to be grain processing facilities. Our spacecraft assembly bays looked like livestock barns. Our weapons arrays were indistinguishable from irrigation systems. She paused, allowing the implications to sink in. Every government in the galaxy was now reviewing their own intelligence assessments, wondering what else they might have missed. If humans could hide a military installation capable of ending a war beneath the appearance of a farming colony, what other capabilities might they possess? "The more important question," Elena continued, "is what happens now. The hegemony leadership has been brought to trial for war crimes. Their fleets have been impounded pending the completion of reparations to affected systems. The immediate threat to galactic peace has been eliminated. Admiral Krath, the former hegemony commander, sat in the special prisoner section of the chamber. His proud bearing had been shattered by the revelation that his supposedly superior forces had been helpless against human technology. During the 3 weeks since his capture, he had cooperated fully with Council investigators, providing details about hegemony military capabilities and strategic plans. "I must ask," Krath said when permitted to speak, "why did humans not reveal these capabilities sooner? Many lives could have been saved if you had intervened earlier in the conflict." Elena considered the question carefully. It touched on decisions that had been debated extensively among the colony leadership during their years of preparation. Because intervention carries consequences that extend far beyond the immediate conflict. By revealing our capabilities now, we have fundamentally altered the balance of power in the galaxy. Every government, every military, every intelligence service is now recalculating their strategic assumptions. She gestured toward the assembled representatives. Some of you are wondering if humanity represents a new threat. Others are considering how to acquire similar technologies. A few are probably planning diplomatic overtures to ensure favorable relations with what you now recognize as a significant military power. The accuracy of her assessment was evident in the uncomfortable shifting that rippled through the chamber. Elena had just verbalized the thoughts that had occupied every government in the galaxy since news of the 9-minute war spread. "But here is what I want you to understand," Elena continued, her voice taking on a harder edge. "Humanity did not build these capabilities to conquer or intimidate. We built them to end wars, not start them. The colony on Kepler 442c will return to its agricultural functions, but the defensive systems will remain operational." She activated another display, this one showing current deployment patterns of human forces throughout the galaxy. Many of the assembled representatives leaned forward with obvious interest, trying to gather intelligence about human military strength. "Our fleet has returned to Kepler 442c and will resume standby status," Elena announced. "The weapons arrays that ended the hegemony offensive will power down to monitoring mode. To outside observers, we will once again appear to be nothing more than farmers growing wheat and raising cattle." The silence that followed was profound. Elena was essentially announcing that humanity would withdraw from galactic affairs, returning to the shadows where they had operated for 3 years. But everyone in the chamber understood the underlying message. The farmers of Kepler 442c would be watching, and they could strike again if necessary. Counselor Veltar spoke into the silence. "Admiral, what assurance can you provide that humanity will not use these capabilities for aggressive purposes?" "The same assurance I can provide that you won't use your plasma cannons to attack civilian targets," Elena replied. "Our actions speak louder than our words. We had the capability to destroy the hegemony fleets completely, but we chose to disable them instead. We could have demanded territorial concessions or resource tributes, but we're asking for nothing except an end to the war." She deactivated the displays and faced the assembly directly. "Humanity prefers to be left alone to pursue our own interests. We built defensive capabilities because history has taught us that peaceful intentions don't guarantee peaceful neighbors. The galaxy has now seen what happens when we judge that our security is threatened." Elena stepped back from the speaking platform, her formal presentation complete. But she remained available for questions, and the representatives had many. For the next 4 hours, she fielded inquiries about human technology, strategic doctrine, and future intentions. Her answers were carefully measured, providing enough information to reassure potential allies while avoiding details that might compromise operational security. As the session concluded, Elena found herself approached by Admiral Thorne, who had requested a private conversation. They walked together to a secluded balcony overlooking the council complex's central plaza. "Elena," Thorne said quietly, "I have to ask, how long have you been planning this? The level of preparation required suggests years of advance work." Elena looked out over the plaza, where representatives from dozens of species mingled in the aftermath of the historic session. "Officially? 3 years. Unofficially, humans have been thinking about asymmetric warfare for centuries. We've always understood that technological superiority can overcome numerical disadvantages. And now? Now we go back to farming," Elena said with a slight smile. "The wheat won't harvest itself and the cattle need tending. But the galaxy will remember that appearances can be deceiving, and that farmers can end wars when circumstances require it. As the two officers stood in comfortable silence, ships began launching from the Council complex, carrying news of the day's revelations to every corner of the galaxy. In government offices and military headquarters across dozens of star systems, intelligence analysts would spend months trying to understand the implications of what they had witnessed.